The die is cast, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, collectors of all ages. Welcome back to Aussieverse. I am OmniBeau, joined by SingleIssue Steve and Spedsy. How are you, boys?
Mate.
Very good, mate.
I'm not in the intro. I just realised it.
That's because I asked if you wanted to be in the intro one day, and you went, no.
Yes, and mate, play along. I'm not in the intro, and I'm upset about it.
No, don't.
Times they are a-changing.
If you are watching this video, which I don't know why I said that, because yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Can you please like the video? Thank you very much, because it is a small little favor to us that means the world to us, and it really helps us with the channel. So please, you're watching the video, like it. If you are watching and you're not subscribed, please subscribe too, because we are on the road to 800 subs, which means we're not that far behind in the 1,000 category. But tonight is the what we have read April and May. We have combined 2 months because we had forgot to do on April. Yeah, so let's take it away. Who wants to go first out of you two?
I don't mind going first. I also don't mind going second. But you know what I don't want to do? I don't want to be full screen and not be able to see you guys. Is that controversial? Is that weird? Am I breaking the format?
Do you mean full screen as in like this?
Oh, that's it. Yeah, I can do that.
Because it gives a chance for people to see what the hell you're talking about.
I can still see you over there. I just feel alone sometimes when I'm so large.
It's not something I know.
I hate being... Am I first now that I settle down?
You can go. Might as well, mate. Go first.
All right. Well, as you know, mate, I'm a shim-sham man when it comes to this stuff. Well, firstly, take a breath. I always feel like I have to go 1,000 miles an hour and I have to talk loud. I'm going to take a breath. I think we should all take a breath. You at home as well. Let's take a breath. Bow, bow. What's that? That's 2 subs talking to each other using sonar. You too can be a sub now by clicking the thing. Anyway, that was a long way for a crap joke. All right, so Shim Sham, half of these are things that I've read, but what it is what I have obtained in the last couple of weeks. Now that's a different show, right? That's called Haul. But I'm not here all the time, so let's dive into this pile of goodness.
That's good to me.
First thing I did recently was I signed up for Ed Kearsley's Patreon, where you, I think it's $3 a month, and you get all this behind-the-scenes stuff. But also, I got a care package from him that included things such as Raid the Wilderland #1 and Raid the Wilderland #2. I think I even got #3. I just forgot to put it in my pile. But these are fun little, inspiring little ash canny things. They're essentially just a scene or two from a larger story. But that's cool. And I also got this, Sea Mandrels from Earth. So it's a nice artwork going on, and these crazy sea mandrels. I don't really know what a sea mandrel is. I thought they were monkeys, but by the time you put them in the sea. So anyway, I probably should read it and work that out. I also got this. I was in a cult, Last Chance Comx. I bought numbers 1 and 2 a while back. Got number 3 for free by being part of the Patreon thingy. So, jump on board. Get yourself one of those. While I'm on this little ashcan train, I mentioned this might have actually been on this very show, but Teenage Secretion by Neil Blandon. This is everything you can imagine from the front cover. It's bloody brilliant. And a special treat for our listeners, viewers, whatever, I accidentally got 2 of these. So I will send one of these copies for free to the first person who comments I want. So just comment I want and then send me your address to spedsy@yahoo.com, and I will send this to the first Aussieverse listener, viewer, whatever, for free.
I think they should actually ask for, they should say that I want Spedsy secretion.
Yeah, teenage Spedsy. No, yeah, you had it.
No.
I could take your joke and improve on it, but I made it worse. Now, let me tell you a little story. There's a comic book. You guys know it very well. And it's by a couple of dudes. Now, one of those dudes, well, firstly, I'd never met these guys, but they were teaming up with my good friend, my favorite artist, Ben Sullivan. And that's the 2 old beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. That's a Big Mac. I'm talking about the Mac brothers and Gods Amongst Men. Now, I saw these guys at Supernova a couple of months back and saw this beautiful foil cover. And I had just paid for entry into Supernova after thinking, oh, if I flash the old pearly whites and tell them I'm a Ledger-nominated creator, Rob Lisle, I'm sluggish, I'll be able to talk my way in here for free. I failed miserably. I had to pay a lot of money to get into that thing. I had to pay for my car park. I was a little bit sore in the wallet region. And so when I met the Mac brothers for the first time, desperate for things to talk about, I said, oh, how much is that beautiful looking thing? And they said, $20. And I awkwardly went, nah. And that's all I said. I went, nah. I just met these guys and made a royal anus of myself. I then went out for beers and karaoke that night with Aaron Mac and realized these guys are really good guys. I really wish I had bought their comic book. So I went on to the Kickstarter and started clicking. And by the time I paid the postage and everything, I would have been down $20. So idiot me. I thought I'll just hold out until I see him again. Saw him again, $20. So I got that going for me. Reddit 2 nights ago. I voiced on Instagram that this is the first comic I ever dreamt about, which is very weird.
Wow.
This, this was created by 2 brothers, and then the protagonists are 2 brothers. And I started going, hang on a sec, is this based on true events? And so I found myself stalking these gentlemen on their Instagrams and trying to connect the dots. And I think I got so far down the rabbit hole that when I went to sleep, I was still in the rabbit hole. And I dreamt that I myself was making burgers and selling weed out the back of my burger shop, is the synopsis of the story. Very well drawn. Holy moly, Ben Sullivan is the man. And just a whole beautiful presentation. Yeah.
They have said it's a true crime story.
Underline the word true. You can do that at home when you got free time. Underline it. Something else I got was this thing, Panic, #1. This is by Brendan Halliday. It tells the story of Brendan Halliday as he deals with mental health issues, mainly panic attacks and whatnot. And I think the first issue is him needing to... is it the first one or the... No, actually, I'm just trying to remember. Anyway, one of them is he needs to poop so bad, but he can't see himself pooping on a dirty public toilet, so he runs from place to place trying to find a good place to poop. Another one is about him being late for work, and then I think this is the poop one. I can't remember what the first one is, but anyway, get your face around that. I also... Sorry, what did you say?
I know Brendan. He's a good guy.
Correct.
Yeah, I've met him before too. Lovely fella.
Oh, wow. There you go. I also got I don't know if I should be showing this, but this is a whip, as they say, a work in progress of #4. Let me just show how whippy it is. Look, there's thumbnails through to beautiful finished splash pages. So he, was awesome enough to give me a look-see at that.
That's pretty
Bland 1 and 2. See, there's my second secretion. Free for the first person who sends in Steve Secretes hashtag. An anthology of cartoons and strips and whatnot by Neil Blandon. Absolutely magnificent. get your face and or chest around it. Another one from Ed Kearsley. This is Battle Team Alpha. This one was an easy read because it has no words. It is an all-action ashcan. Action ashcan. It literally says all the action with none of the stupid, boring word bits. And, of course, it's got a pin-up by my boy, Nick May.
I didn't realise Ed had so much.
Ed is prolific. If there's a lific, he's all about it because he is prolific. It's hard being hilarious. This is another Ed Kearsley, part of the care package, Cobber. And I haven't read this one yet. If it's not about Dave Dye, I will be disappointed. So there you well, and look, 4 of 10 with a little orange thing. This one is by Ryan Vella, called Active Shooter. This is a 24-hour comic, as in he wrote, drew, penciled, inked everything within one 24-hour period.
Wow!
Desperate to read it. Haven't read it yet. He said it was awesome to basically have a full comic done within 24 hours, but at the same time, it nearly killed him and he hated it. So he's ready to do it again.
Wow!
Next up, I believe you have read this, but I have not as yet. Is Foes. This is part of my piles. Yeah, I mean, I've read the original parts. I've just not read them together and with their extra pages and whatever. But Peter Wilson is the man.
There's definitely a lot more in that book than what you would have read prior to it. I was pretty amazed at how much is in that book, and it's really good. Yeah,
right. Another Ryan Vella. This is an Amazing Spider-Man bootleg. This is sick of waiting for Marvel to come to him. Ryan Vella just said, I want to write a Spider-Man story, so I'm just going to do it. So this was for free because you're not allowed to sell this sort of material. So I paid nothing for it.
What? You were allowed to sell that? What?
Well, you can't write and draw Spider-Man comics and sell them.
Oh, he wrote a Spider-Man comic too.
Yeah, so he wrote and drew this.
Oh wow! Okay, I thought it was just the cover.
No, do you want to look at it? Let's look at it.
Yeah.
Spoilers though, because I haven't read it yet, and I don't want to be.
Oh wow, that's so cool.
What's the rating of this show? I can't remember.
It's boobs allowed now.
Sweet, boobs allowed. So yeah.
Oh man, that is so cool. I wonder what that's like.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, apparently, like have you read Battery Hen or something like that?
Yeah, I've got Battery Hen.
Yeah, so you might be. I'm assuming it's in that similar vein, as in no holds barred, balls to the wall, boobs to the wall, even. This one's a little self-serving, but I got it in the same pile, and that's 2 proof copies of some comics that are about to come out that are written by that guy there. What? So Rick McClune, issue 9 is en route.
So have you written the other issues?
I have written. I mean, all up, I've written how many? 6, 7 issues of Rick McClune. So far, only 2 of them have been released. This being the second.
Okay.
And then Torn and the Southern Squadron by Dave DeVries, myself, and Ben Sullivan, which is on Kickstarter right now. It's the Notify Me thingy. I'll talk about that more as it gets closer, I'm sure. And then Vex, which is this is an anthology thing of all just weird bits and pieces that Gary deems too weird to go into his flagship book, which is Reverie, which is a big chunky anthology with artists from all over Australia teaming up to make nonsense.
Man, you got so many books I want to get.
Well, cool they're stuff, right here, mate. You know where I live? No, you don't? Good.
Is that it?
I think that's it, mate. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Steve-O.
All right. Okay, so I've got a mixed bag as well. So first, found some stuff that I've never read before. So I pulled out Batman versus Superman, New 52. I've got volumes 1 and volumes 2. Now, this artwork is really different. I don't know anything about this artist, I'll be honest, but let me find a really good page to show you. So,
Jay Lee, right?
It is Jay Lee, mate. Yeah. It's just, I like it. It's just very, very different to what I normally have a look at. So that was really cool. And the second volume is a lot thicker. But I remember Beau and I were talking, it's like a lot of it is reading like this. Like those magazines you used to get at the service station covered in plastic, which I often refer to, which I've never bought. Very much like those. What's that?
Can't wait for that, Omni.
Oh, that's going to be fun to read, isn't it?
Not practical, is it?
Trying to hold it like that. Sorry, Spedsy, what were you saying?
No, I was just agreeing. Yeah, not practical in an Omni. But I remember X-Force. I wanted to reread X-Force, and I think issue 2 started going sideways, and I'm just like, that's it. This is too hard. I'm annoyed.
Yeah, it's hard to read while you try and drink your coffee as well in the morning. So the next little sort of mini series I've discovered, which is this guy's actually quickly becoming one of my favorite DC characters.
Oh, dude, Red Hood is the shit. I love
He's awesome. Like, I've never really gotten into him before, but this was just awesome. I really enjoyed this.
He's the best Robin.
Yeah, so I've got some Red Hood and the Outlaws, but I haven't got the whole series yet. But yeah, this was awesome. I really, really enjoyed this.
I get a little confused with the titles. I know that's not the New 52, but is that the Bizarro series?
It is, mate. Yep.
Yeah.
And Bizarro is very good in this too, as well as Artemis is in there too. So the other thing I've got here is slightly Australian flavour. Tastes like Australians. Just like Spedsy. Look what I got.
Hey,
I got this one too. But mine's been signed by the lovely Mac brothers.
Have you read it, Steve?
That's pretty special. I have. I read it as soon as I... So after I saw you guys at Alternate Worlds that day, on Free Comic Book Day, I came straight home and read it straight away. Loved it. Really, really good. And I'm not just saying it because they're good blokes. It was actually just a very good read. Artwork's awesome. Story. I'm really looking forward to when the next one comes out. So I'm hanging for that.
I'm gonna put you on the spot and make sure you've read it. What did they make the buns out of for their hamburgers?
Oh, it was something different. Was it rice?
Yes, it was. Good. Bing, bing, bing. He did read it.
Yeah. I started panicking, and people are going to think, oh, you're just talking shit, Roberts. Anyway, also, too, another foil cover, which I picked up, Pete Lane's Sky's Cabin Library. That was a really good read. I enjoyed that one.
When did you get that?
What? Same day, mate.
Oh,
Same day, Free Comic Book Day. I paid for it, though. I paid for all of them because I'm not a tight ass, but that was cool. Pete, I really enjoyed that. If you ever watched this episode, really good, mate. And the other one I've read is the Angel of Light's Excrement Receptacle, which was really good. Also known as the Devil's Toilet. I think the Angel of Light's Excrement Receptacle. Some idiot drew on the cover, though. I don't know about that, but
1 sec. What did you think of it?
It's really cool.
Oh, okay.
It's really cool. No. And I'm not just saying that because I know him and he knows probably close to where I live. So, but no, Spedsy, this is great, mate. I've got a couple of these now, a couple of different issues. So I'm really enjoyed this, mate. Well done. Good read, good artwork. And look, he signed some stuff for me too. Look at that. That's cool. I like that. And the last one I've got is actually something a little bit different. So I sometimes talk about books. Well, when I say sometimes talk about books, I've talked about one so far. So this will double my book quota. So a book that my instructor actually gave me called, you can read that, Across the Nightingale Floor by Leanne Hurd, set in feudal Japan. Now, question for you guys. Do you know what a nightingale floor is?
No.
Oh,
have a guess.
Is it the room that in a Japanese sort of, you have the paper sort of doors and then there's the floor that's, no, I'm way wrong, the paddedy sort of floor?
You're kind of on the right pathway, mate. So what it is it's a special floor that's set up. So as you walk on it, it squeaks. So it's like an early warning system about ninjas, for ninjas coming in to assassinate samurai and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So
You need
yeah, you need one because there's so many ninjas in our suburb. It's not funny. You've got to be careful.
I imagine my dog, imagine your dog just hearing squeak, squeak, squeak every time he walked on it. He wouldn't know what's going on.
No, I'd hear that all night from both my cats running up and down in the middle of the night. That's what cats do. But this is really cool. I haven't finished it yet. I'm about a third of the way through it. So a story about a young boy who was displaced by his parents and was taken under the wing of a samurai lord. And the young fella actually came from a ninja village. So, yeah, they don't call them ninjas. They call them the unseen, which is pretty cool.
Steve,
so that's my little...
Can I ask a very ignorant question? Feudal Japan, was it feudal Japan because different parts were feuding with each other? Is that why it's called feudal, or does feudal mean something else in this?
No. Feudal Japan. You're right, mate. All the different clans and stuff would clash. Nothing to do with the video game that everybody knows, but feudal Japan.
Yeah,
so
right.
The Tokugawa shogunate and all that sort of stuff. Shogunate and stuff. Yeah.
Right.
So it's a really, really good read. I'm enjoying the book. So yeah, a couple of little things to read, some Australian content as well, which is always great. And that's my reads for this month. I've actually done I've read quite a bit.
So I didn't ask Rob this, which I will ask straight after you, but what's the best thing you've read so far out of all those?
Out of all of them, I'm going to have to say, mate, the Red Hood stuff.
Cool, man.
I've actually really, really, really enjoyed it, and not a knock on Rob's work or anything like that. It's just the Red Hood stuff just really sung to me. So,
Rob, what's the best thing you've read?
This answer is weird, but it would be this, which I co-wrote, but only because I wrote it 3 years ago, and for a little stretch of time, I was like, I don't think it's happening. And so for the idea that I was actually holding it in my hand and reading it, it was like a real sort of like, holy shit, it actually happened. So probably that, but legit, I was surprised by how good this was, only because it's their first comic out. I mean, Ben's like a veteran of the game and he's amazing. But yeah, I didn't expect it to be as good as it was. So yeah, this one, if I'm not
same, mate.
Yeah,
I think there's still one copy left at Alternate Worlds. So if anyone's interested, go grab that last copy. If you're not sure where that is, ask us on Instagram right there. Go check out our videos on TikTok, or you can message us on Facebook right here, where you can also check out A51 Designs. And we are humbly sponsored by Comx. So here's have a word from our sponsor. Here is a word from our sponsor.
Yeah.
This show is sponsored by the Comx shop. Check out comx.cx for all things Comx and find out what Comx is all about. We hope you enjoyed the show.
And we're back. Okay, so now it's my turn. I've got a lot here, so I'm going to try to fly through this. So first, let's go DC, okay? I better do this thing. So
not that one.
There is 4 books in this series, DC versus Vampires, Volume 1 and 2, and then DC versus Vampires All Out War 1 and 2. Again, I'm coming from a guy's perspective that doesn't read that much DC, although I'm really starting to now. What's the other one? Deceased and a few other stuff. It really starts strong. And the first 12 issues are just awesome, and I loved it. But then it kind of isn't as good a bit later. However, the one thing I don't think was ever mentioned, at least in the conversations that I haven't heard, if you're one of these guys that absolutely love those black, white, and red books and those sorts of things, the DC versus Vampires All Out War, Volume 1 and 2, is all black, white, and red. So that's if you dig that sort of stuff and you want that in your collection, then definitely go get DC versus Vampires All Out War Volume 1 and 2, because that is all black, white, and red. There you go.
Hang on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. There is color in it too, but a fair chunk of it is black and white.
Yeah, red.
Black, white, and red. Sorry.
I think the reason why I say it's not as good later is purely because there's a lot of characters that happen later that I'm very not familiar with. So if you're a big DC guy, it might be solid the whole way through. But like Deceased, a lot of the classic characters are taken off the board really early, and then it's the B grade, C grade characters that are in there a lot. I recently subscribed to DC Infinite, which is the Marvel Unlimited version, because there's been a few DC books that I've wanted to read, and I want to stop buying trades and hardcovers of stuff that I just want to read once, and that's it. So I've started reading some stuff. Supergirl by Tom King, World of Tomorrow. I've heard great things about this, and I really wanted to read it because the upcoming Supergirl movie apparently has a lot to do with that. And dude, I loved it. It was so good, and it was not what I was expecting at all. Every Supergirl that I've ever read, I've enjoyed, but it's been very similar sort of stuff. This was very, very different, and this was a side of Supergirl that I'm not used to at all. So I don't know. People tell me in the comments, is this Supergirl Kara very different to the other Supergirls stories, or is this the way she's being written now, or is this just the way Tom King does her? Because I'm telling you, I'm really starting to look for some Tom King stuff now. It was just so beautifully written. If you're not a Supergirl fan or a DC or whatever, you don't really need to read anything. Just read that. It's 8 issues, and it was glorious. I then picked up Rogues, which is one that I've been wanting to read for a long time. Sharif's read it. Steve, have you read it?
No, I haven't, mate. Not yet.
So it's about in the future where Captain Cold and the Rogues go for one last heist, stealing the gold out of Gorilla City, and it was really good. It was pretty cool, man. Again, you don't really need to read anything before it. You just kind of need to know who the Rogues are, and that's about it. So I do recommend that. Moving on, we've got World's Finest by Mark Waid. This one is really good. I'm up to about issue 6 or 7. Although it took me a little while to realize that it's set in the past. The whole time I'm sitting there going, why is Dick Robin again? What's going on with that? And I couldn't quite understand it until I went, oh, it's in the past, you dickhead. You probably should have worked that out in the first issue. But it's a solid read. It's really good. The next one is Night Terrors, which was, I guess, an event in DC that I wanted to read. There's a lot of issues with this because, like events, there is the solo series, then there's all the one-shots and so forth. I haven't read all the one-shots yet, but I have read the main series and the prologue, and it's pretty cool. I really dug it as well. So everything DC that I've read has been pretty good. Moving on to the non-big two, Cryptozoic Man. I feel like I've talked about this one before, but I don't
think you have. Not with me on the show. Now, talk to me about what. Sorry, I mean you're going to anyway. I'll shut up. But why have you got that?
Because I loved the show Comic Book Men.
Right.
I watched the crap out of that show, and I loved it. I really, really loved it. It was a great reality show, and the guys in the show end up making a comic. And for years, I always wanted to read it, and it's not that easy to find. So I finally got it, and I read it, and I hated it.
Can I tell you a little story? So alternate worlds that we've talked about. So I worked there for 11 years when they moved from. They used to be near the city, and they closed down, and I thought, well, I'm already driving all this way. I'm not driving further to go find wherever they go. And then out of interest, just out of like curiosity, one day I looked at their website and just thought, I wonder where they ended up moving to. Bayswater, 2 minutes down the road from my house. So I immediately went there and put a resume in and said, I want to work here. I got the job, and the first thing was to basically everything from the old store had been boxed up and brought to the new store. And so it was just day after day of unboxing all these trades. And I squealed like a girl when I saw War of the Undead, which was the first comic book that Walt Flanagan and Brian Johnson did together. Because way back when, so I'm a big View Askew guy, which is all the Kevin Smith movies. And so Fanboy and Steve Dave, played by Walt and Brian, were two reoccurring favorites of mine. So when they started a podcast called Tell 'em Steve Dave about 10, 15 years ago, I was all about it. And on that very show, it's one guy, Brian Johnson, who Kevin Smith was like, you need to start a podcast and you need to do it with Walt Flanagan, because Brian was circling the drain. He was constantly talking about killing himself, and it was just was Kevin's sort of idea that just have something to get up for in the morning, do this podcast. And so you watch this podcast, you listen to this podcast, and it's one dude, Walt, who doesn't want to be there. He has no interest in being a podcaster, but he's there to support his friend. And then his friend, who is absolutely destroyed with depression, but they're both funny guys, and they're trying to make the best of this thing. And on the tech is a guy called Brian Q. Quinn. Now, the podcast follows this journey of these two and their tech guy. It soon becomes the three of them talking. And you follow their journey as they come out of the depths of this depression and whatever. And then Kevin gets has a meeting with somebody, and they say, have you got any ideas for a show? And he's like, I do, actually. I've always thought a reality show set in a comic book store. And they said, sounds great, let's do it. Now let's talk budget. And Kevin goes, well, I actually own a comic book store, so you could do it in my store. And for the pilot episode, if you want, just do it with my guys that work there, because they already have a podcast. Anyway, so if you listen to this podcast, it goes from three unknown dudes to they get on this hit within our little niche. They're on Comic Book Men. Meanwhile, Q becomes part of the Impractical Jokers, which explodes on American television. And yeah, so it's an amazing podcast to listen to. And War of the Undead was a great find that day, but it wasn't very good. And then cut to years later when they made a comic on the show. I got it in single issues, which is over there somewhere, and also not very good. But Walt is an amazing artist. But
did you like the show Comic Book Men?
Yeah, I did. Listening to their podcast and then watching them, they're not really like net performers.
Yeah.
But if you listen to Walt on a podcast for 10 years and then see what he's doing on television, he is the greatest actor since My Left Foot guy. Like he is
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Daniel Day-Lewis. He is not a guy who wants to be on TV. But he's a comedic genius. Yeah, a fascinating TV show from that perspective, but also just fun watching old dudes like me talk about comic books.
Yeah, I really hated when it ended. I really dug it. Go check it out, people. Comic Book Men. Moving on, I got this one purely because my mate sold it to me for really cheap, and it's by Warren Ellis. I didn't realize, though, that I think there's only 1,500 of them out there, and that was Frankenstein's Womb.
Oh.
So it's a small small little trade. It's all black and white.
Yeah.
And I dug it, but I'm never going to read it again. So I'm thinking I might just send it to Lee Chalker when I send him that Ravens jacket, because I know he digs his black and white comics because he's a weirdo like that.
I thought you were going to say he loves wombs.
Sorry, did you ever read that, Cryptozoic Man?
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, no, I didn't dig it.
I mean, this is not a show where we bag things, but yeah, I hoped for. It takes itself very seriously when it's a ridiculous concept.
Well, speaking of things that you bag, but then I know how much you loved this one. I read Pride of Baghdad, and I only got this, Spedsy, because of you.
Okay.
This is a title that I had seen around the traps for many years. I had no idea what it was about. I assumed it was about war and stuff, and it just didn't really interest me. And then I think Sharif got a copy of it, and you were on the show when he did, and you went, "Oh, I loved that. It's so good." And then you told us what it was about, which is about a pride of lions that escaped the zoo in Baghdad, based on a true story. And I went, "Oh, that's not what I thought it was about." And Spedsy loves it. I'm going to have to get a copy one day. And I did. And I loved it. It was so good. It was such a great story. Man, yeah, I recommend it. It's got a bit of a sad ending, but it's a solid read. Yeah.
You know what's weird?
Bo, just in regards to what TV show or what story it's based on, it's not based on that documentary Blood Brothers: The Lions of Sabi Sands, is it? Have you ever seen that?
No, but
That's brutal.
This is about a bombing in Baghdad near a zoo, and all the animals escape.
Okay, cool.
No, this is so hypocritical of me. I had just finished Why the Last Man in trades, and I was annoyed at myself that I didn't get it in omnibuses at the time, if you can believe. And so when that was on the shelf prior to Baghdad, because I just wanted anything by Brian K. Vaughan, there was the trade version and the hardcover version. And I was like, oh, chances are I'm going to love it, so I'll get the hardcover. And then years later, I put it on the shelf, and it sticks out higher than the other ones. And I'm like, why did I get a hardcover of that one? So there was a brief moment in time when I was nearly Spedsy, but yeah.
Well, that Why the Last Man, I'm looking at it right now, and it's pretty big.
Thank you.
Yeah. I love King Kong and Godzilla and all those sorts of stuff, but I've never read any comics. It's still like I'm kind of dying to know how you can keep a Godzilla comic going, because there's been so many, and there still is. I ended up getting Godzilla: The Half-Century War, which I heard was really good, and it is. It's about a guy that is young in the army. Godzilla attacks, and he spends the next 50 years being obsessed with Godzilla and somehow stopping him. And it's a really good read. I really dug it. It would make a great film, to be honest. So I've never read any Godzilla. So if you just like the character and you want to read a Godzilla comic, I'd recommend that one. Yeah, really, really cool.
Yeah, I've heard good things about that too. But and same misconception, I guess. I was just like, Godzilla, how do you keep that going? But I guess you do.
Probably one of the best things that I've read this month has been God Country.
Yes.
By my favorite my favorite writer of this generation, Donny Cates, which is such a shame because he's in a car accident and he hasn't written in a long time since then. But this was awesome, and I've got to get the hardcover one day. I couldn't put it down, and I nearly read it in one sitting, and the only reason why I didn't was because I had to get off the toilet. But it was fantastic. You meant to laugh at that and you didn't, so you let me down. But seriously, God Country, man, I want to read anything this guy writes. He's just amazing, man. And I really hope that Baby Teeth omnibus comes out one day, because I haven't read that and I keep waiting for that, and they keep cancelling it. And anyway, God Country, about a grandfather with Alzheimer's that turns into a real asshole due to the affliction. And all of a sudden, a sword comes from the heavens, and he picks it up and it cures his Alzheimer's. And then there's a god that comes down wanting to reclaim the sword. And it's just fantastic. A one and done story. Really, really good, man. Highly recommend it.
Yeah, I loved it. I had a character, I think I talked about this a while ago. I've got a character called Old Man Biscuit, and his whole gimmick was that he has more swords than sense. He had a lot of swords. And somewhere along the line in telling his story, I had read God's Country, and I don't think I didn't do it consciously, but I did a thing where all Old Man Biscuit's swords get taken from him, and he replaces them with one massive one. And when I started reading Berserk, I was like, an older dude with a massive sword. I think maybe I stole it from Berserk. And then you've just shown that, and I'm like, I think that might be where I subconsciously. Remind me, does it start with lightning that hits a tree and a branch falls down, and the branch is what he uses for a weapon first? Or am I getting two stories mixed up?
No, that isn't what happens.
Okay.
It's basically a narrator.
A narrator.
Is that the right word?
He's very thin. He's very thin. He's a narrator.
Is that not the right word?
Narrator.
No, narrator.
You just put a couple extra R's in there and an extra A, I think.
Oh, anyway, there's a narrator, and basically painting the scene. And the dad goes in, and the grandfather's going nuts and yelling, and so no, you're wrong, Spedsy.
Bo, have you ever read Southern Bastards or Southern Bastards?
No, but that's the title again. That's another title that I've heard for years.
Yeah, I feel like that might be up your. I'm not going as hard as I did with Pride of Baghdad, but I think that might be up your alley as well.
Yeah.
It's not. There's no supernatural elements, but man, an old dude who gets himself into some strife. I'm all about it.
Well, there's quite a few comics I've read that have nothing to do with superheroes or supernatural and whatever. They're just comics, like a lot of Ed Brubaker's stuff, and I love them. Absolutely love. Some of the best stuff I've read is Criminal by Ed Brubaker. Dude, that is just so good. Anyway, now Marvel. So I've got a lot here, so I'm going to try and fly through this. Unforgiven, which was about vampires in the Marvel Universe. I think I remember enjoying it, but that was at the beginning of April, and I barely remember what happened, so it can't have been that good if I don't remember it. Avengers, Inc. This was actually quite good. I was quite impressed with how good this was. This is about Janet Van Dyne, the Wasp, creating a little sort of like private eye sort of group, and trying to work out some mysteries in the Marvel universe. And I was quite surprised. It was really solid, and it was about 4 or 5 issues, and I highly recommend it.
Was that Vision with her or Mr. Sinister?
I am not going to answer that question because that is a part of the mystery.
Okay.
You're not meant to know who that character is, but you're not wrong or right either.
Mr. Vision. Yeah.
Next up is a series that I haven't finished because not all of them are out yet on Marvel Unlimited, but I've been reading it and it is great. It is Chip Zdarsky, Avengers Twilight. This is set in the future where there was a big catastrophe and all these people died, including some Avengers, but lots of civilians, and the Avengers get disbanded. Fast forward like 50 years in the future, and everybody's old, and the world is not that great. Tony Stark's son is a real a-hole, and Captain America decides to pick up the shield again and go liberate the world. But the world doesn't really want to be liberated, and it's pretty good, man. You know, the highlight is Captain America goes out into the street, makes this big Captain America speech like he's done a million times, and every time he does it, everyone rallies behind him and goes, "Yeah, Captain America!" And this time, after his big speech that was really good, the people are like, "F off!" And Captain's like, "But that's my speech. Like, what?" And it was a good twist on it. Next up is the current run of Avengers by Jed McKay. This is definitely better than the previous run by Jason Aaron. There's only about 9 issues out so far, but it's a solid read, and I am really digging it. I got to admit, and I'm excited.
Who's the leader of that team?
That is Captain Marvel.
Nice.
Yeah, really good though. If Jason Aaron's Avengers, it turns you off the Avengers, then I suggest picking this one up. Next up is 2 issues that literally just dropped yesterday on Marvel Unlimited, and I read them both today, and that is Ultimate X-Men by Peach Momoko and drawn by Peach Momoko.
Mm.
That is some weird stuff. I'm very curious to see what real X-Men fans think of that. It's like, on one hand, the reason why I like the Ultimate Universe is because it's meant to be so different, right? And it's really good when it comes to things like the current Spider-Man. So I shouldn't bash this because it is very, very different, and it might be very good later. But the first 2 issues are a bit more like, yeah, okay. Guardians of the Galaxy is a title that I've always loved. It's always been great. I've always been excited to read the Guardians of the Galaxy. This is the latest run by Lansing, and I am not digging it at all. It's
Who have we got on the team? Is that Nebula up front?
yeah, so it's the classic team, but it also has Nebula and Mantis.
Yeah.
And Mantis is just very, very different to any Mantis that I've ever read. It kind of starts out a little bit like a Western, so I was digging that. And the storyline for the first like 10 issues or so is Groot there's a mystery behind Groot. Somehow he has been transformed into like a big Groot asteroid that is eating planets, and they have to stop it. And it's just, I'm just not digging it, man. Like I'm avoiding reading more issues, which is a shame because I really like Guardians.
Over the summer period, I went swimming with a couple of mates and I had my shirt off, and I thought they were calling me Mantis, but they were calling me Man-Tits. As that was hurtful.
Mates have always got to be real with you, Spedsy.
Mm-hmm.
Next up is Bloodline, Daughter of Blade.
Nice.
The reason why I read this one is because if you've been watching our cutoff videos, there is a current event running through Marvel at the moment. I've gone blank on what the title is, but it's Blood something, and it's basically vampires are taking over the Marvel universe. And on Marvel Unlimited...
Blood Hunt, isn't it?
Blood Hunt, that's it. On Marvel Unlimited, they had a read prior to Blood Hunt section. And in there was Blood Hunt, Daughter of Blade, which I forgot existed, which was a fairly recent series. And it was pretty good. I liked it. The first issue or 2 didn't sell me because I thought it was really written for like a younger audience and not for people like me. But then Blade comes into it and it gets a bit more adulty, and it's pretty cool. And I've got 2 left, kind of. What I mean by that is I hadn't read Fantastic Four, the previous run by Dan Slott at all, and I really wanted to catch up on Fantastic Four before reading the new run. So I read 48 issues of Fantastic Four by Dan Slott, and I really dug it. You know, the whole thing wasn't fantastic, but I really dug it. It introduces things like Doom's future bride. Does he end up marrying her? You'll have to read it. Ben Grimm finally tying the knot with Alicia. Johnny Storm finding his soulmate on another planet. A twist or a retcon on the origin of the Fantastic Four. That was really cool. What else happened? The Reckoning War, which was so good, so good. I can't believe that wasn't an event in Marvel and it was just in the Fantastic Four books. But if you don't want to read 48 issues of Fantastic Four and you love things like the Watcher and the Infinity Gauntlet and Galactus and cosmic stuff, go read the Reckoning War, because that is just so freaking good, man. I loved it.
I read maybe 25 to 30 issues of that. And then I can't remember why I bowed out. It might have been the time where I sort of bowed out of a lot of comics. But did the Human Torch stay with is he still with the angel type lady? So
they break up because he cheats on her.
Ah.
And she leaves to go back to the planet. However, at the end of the series, Doom has done something to Johnny Storm that means his flame can never go off.
Ah.
So he can never turn it off. And Johnny gets so angry at Reed not being able to solve his problem and getting distracted by other things that Johnny ends up hooking back up with her and leaving. And
yeah, I really like the relationship, because he's like a won't be tied down sort of a dude, and then she was quite from memory, like quite stern, and he would back down and stuff, and I don't know, I found that whole relationship very interesting.
I've always loved Storm, but he's such a dog. He's such a dog to the women, man.
Yeah.
Seriously, mate. Just be faithful, you weirdo.
Faithful.
Okay. And then last but not least is I have finally decided to take the plunge, which is such a massive commitment, but I'm doing it. And that is all of the Krakoa age for X-Men. So this is 4 years of X-Men writing that has recently just ended. And I've gone, screw it, I'm going to do it. So I started with Hox Pox, which I had previously read when it first came out. That is House of X and Powers of 10. So I reread that and I understood it and liked it a lot better the second time around. I think with Jonathan Hickman's writing, I need to read it quick. And what I mean by that is that he's such a smart writer that I think I analyze way too much about what's going on. And I think that's a disservice, at least for my brain. If I just read it without overthinking it, I actually understand it a lot more and realize things aren't as complicated as I make them out to be. So I enjoyed it the second time around. And there was 6 titles that came out after Hox Pox, that being the X-Men, X-Force, Marauders, Excalibur, New Mutants, and the last one was Fallen Angels, which was only 6 issues. And I've started reading them all, and I'm up to like issue 9 of X-Men, issue 7 of X-Force, issue 4 or so of Marauders, and Excalibur and New Mutants, I've basically only read 1 issue. But yeah, man, that's going to take a while, but I'm digging it and I'm so addicted to it. And I just can't wait to see what happens and where it goes.
I hope it goes somewhere. Not to poop on your parade, but I loved the idea of House of X and Power of X. And I thought finally someone's like going to tidy this up a little bit and make the X-Men a little bit more. It used to be the blue team, the gold team, X Factor, X-Force, New Mutants. It was very clear where everyone was. And a lot of them lived out of the mansion, and sometimes you'd see them in each other's books, but it would be like Professor X or Cyclops would send the gold team to deal with that. You'd read that in Uncanny. Then the X-Men got everyone's at Wolverine's in 14 books at the same time, and just trying to get your head around like this doesn't. And then I thought, here we go, we're going to take it all again, and then coming out of it, I was like Fallen Angels. I love the idea of it, but is the team called Fallen Angels? And why is Wolverine in 3 different teams? And at what point do they too much.
Well,
and you can't possibly read like $3.99 American per book, $4.99 sometimes. You just can't read it all. And
that's why you get Marvel Unlimited. Yeah. So my thoughts so far out of the Krakoa Age is, first and foremost, is that really Professor X? Because this does not seem like Professor X at all to me. Like even the way he's drawn with his close-up face, they kind of make him look a little nefarious. So I'm just starting to wonder, like, is there going to be a twist where this was never really Professor X? And if it is, well, then it's a little weird to me. Second of all, they show so Cyclops is living on the moon with his family, and Wolverine's living with them, and they show the layout of the bedrooms. And I remember this being a discussion when it first came out, but it is weird, and I've got to mention it. You have Cyclops' room, you have Wolverine's room. You have Cyclops. What is Wolverine in the middle of both of them, or no?
Jean's in the middle, but they've both got an open door into Jean's room.
So, like,
I think that was it.
I'm pretty sure they're all doing it.
Yeah. My big complaint was that comic book deaths can already mean so little. Like I like in a story where someone dies, and then, they eventually came back. And I'm like, yeah, but in this self-contained story, so-and-so died, and it was a big moment. I don't care about how they brought him back, whatever. But in the Krakoa thing, once they're just like, all right, we can clone them and bring them back, then they were killing them every second issue, someone's dying. Yeah. And it's just, I don't know. It felt kind of lazy. Like the DC vampires thing. I'm like, that's an Elseworlds thing. I love the idea of it. I want to read. I love stories about how your Green Arrows and whatever have to deal with the fact that Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman have been killed. I love that. I love when the mantle falls to someone who's not equipped. But I love that because it's in the Elseworlds and whatever. But when you don't kill anyone for 20 years, and then we've got this special, we can make gold eggs and bring them back. So then suddenly all the X-Men who have been near unkillable for 20 years are now dropping like flies. It's just like, come on.
It's so true. I had the exact same thought when Domino died. I'm like, this would have meant so much once upon a time. Yeah. And now it's like, it doesn't matter at all, And then, Professor X gets killed. And they're all sad about it. And I'm like, why? Who cares? They'll just bring him back. Like, big deal. Professor X has been assassinated. Okay. Bring him back. Like, you've just said you can bring everyone back.
What would you guys get up to if suddenly, I have this little Krakoa thing that I've scanned both your brains and you've seen it work, it works, there's no problems with it. What are you changing about? Like, are you taking more risks now that I can bring you back?
Heroin.
Jeez, that got dark quick.
Oh, I forgot to mention, there's one fault with the machine. Your dick ends up on your forehead. I don't know what. So I hope the heroin was good.
No, in all seriousness, I think, like, I've jumped out of a plane before, but that's like it for me. When it comes to other things like bungee jumping and everything, I don't think any of that is safe, as opposed to jumping out of a plane. But like, I think if that could happen, I would take those risks and be like, but I can be brought back with the dick on my head.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I'd just go as normal. I couldn't walk around with a knob hanging off my head. Because imagine when you're trying to run and stuff, it'd go flop, 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 flop in your face. And when it was wet.
You're assuming you have a big dick on your head.
Well, you wouldn't want a small one. If you're going to go that far with it, you might as well get a big one.
Well, Steve,
why would you want a little one like that? Go, is that a pimple? No, that's my dick.
Well,
secondary fault, Steve, that I didn't realize. So Bo came back with the dick on his head. You actually came back with a vagina on yours. I don't know what happened, what went wrong.
Oh, I'm jealous.
I'd be more popular.
You can headbutt each other, and anyway.
How did the kids come out? Oh, I don't want to know.
Oh. And
Mouth
with that, we are out of time, ladies and gentlemen. We're very, very, very sorry for the last minute of that conversation.
Yeah, we'll cut that bit out.
No, we're not.
But if it hasn't turned you off, please remember to like the video and subscribe to Aussieverse, because it doesn't matter where in the world you are, you can be a part of the Aussieverse. And guys, between you both, what is Aussieverse?
It's 5 life.
Yeah.
For
life.
4 skins. 4.
Comes with biscuits and tea.
Now, let me tell you something, brother. When you're in the Aussieverse, you're in it for life. Yeah, get it.
Okay, see you later. We're out of here. Yeah.